Welcome back to Riverside Real Estate Success Podcast. My name is Chris Mueller, and I'm very excited today to be joined in studio by Crystal Coleman and famous Fred. Now, if you're not familiar with the Riverside real estate scene, Crystal and Fred are one of those power couples. They do an incredible business. They are kind of icons in the area. And so it's just fun to bring them in and to talk about the market. Now, you'll see Crystal on camera. Fred is in studio. But he's hiding off in the shadows, sort of like Batman here. So hopefully he'll interject from time to time. So without any further ado, welcome, Crystal.
Hi, Chris. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being on. So the whole goal of these conversations is to just really tease out a little bit about your experience, about what differentiates you in the market, and anything that another agent could maybe take and apply. You know, we are better together is sort of the mindset. But before we get too deep into that, so how long have you been in real estate?
Well, I got my license in 2009, when everybody was getting out of real estate. Mm-hmm. And I kind of thought, well, everybody's getting out of it. Maybe that's a good time for me to get into it. And it was a little more challenging than I think that I thought it would be.
Oh, yeah.
But I was in college. I was finishing my degree in art history. So very different type of field. But I had done a lot of sales, in my life, working for art galleries, selling art. And I liked that. I liked selling. And I also, I felt like whatever field I go into after getting a degree, I'm going to be stuck in an income bracket, where I'm going to be employed by somebody and they're going to determine, what I'm worth. And I just thought, you know what, I really want to be the one to determine what my worth is. Yeah. I want to be able to not have a limit or a cap on what I'm capable of earning, and also have that freedom to, be your own boss.
Yeah, no, totally. I want to back up a step because you said in 2009 you got in.
Right.
Everybody else was getting out. You got in, and you undersold that. You said it was a little challenging. It was a freaking bloodbath, if I remember correctly. So tell me about that. That was a hard time to get into real estate.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about your experience there.
Well, it wasn't very fun. I mean, mostly it was working with investors, just a ton of investors, and, you're writing a ton of offers, and you're just kind of grasping for something. And, things were like so dirt cheap, we all look back on it and you're like, oh my God, like how could it have been that cheap? And buyers were still scared to buy.
Oh, yeah.
If you remember that, buyers were still like, well, what if it gets lower? And
yeah, totally. And it's funny because, that the old adage of listings, control the market, right? You want listings. Even in that market where prices are crashing and there's so many homes in the market, it still was hard with buyers because when you had them, the investors were just eating everything. So it was just, bring your little first-time home buyer, and then you're up against cash investment. It was still hard with buyers, even in that, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think I had to get, tough skin really fast because it was such a difficult time, and you have investors just kind of using you to find property, but, they're not really loyal to you.
Right.
And so, things happen and you're clinging on to that one transaction you have. And so, it was a difficult time, but I mean, I was determined to stick with it. I was determined to just see it through.
Yeah. So that would, so the obvious follow-up question is, how did you navigate through it? Where did you find your niche? Where did you find your wheels gaining traction?
Well, I had a passion for vintage homes and for downtown. I mean, I lived downtown, grew up in Riverside. I actually grew up in the Benedict Castle. I don't know if you're familiar with the Benedict Castle, but I lived there for over 20 years. My parents ran the program Teen Challenge there.
Okay.
And so, that historical architecture is just, stayed so deep inside of me. I just felt like that is what I'm passionate about, and of course, we all want to just sell anything, right? But at the same time, you have to gravitate towards what you're passionate about.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's interesting because that's so true, right? It's not everybody has access to the same thing. Not everybody has experience in the same thing. Not everybody has sort of the vocabulary for that. But for you, you were born into historic, California architecture. So it's like, as a fish, that's your water.
Right.
And how many other agents might really want to be there, but they just don't speak the language fluently?
Exactly, because the historic homeowner is also a different type of breed, that you have to really be able to relate to. And, you have to understand what their needs are. And it can be a lot more challenging than somebody that's lived in a tract house for 5 years. They don't, it's a place for them. They don't really care who buys it as long as they get the price they want.
Right.
It's a totally different kind of experience. And so you kind of have to be able to put yourself in those emotional shoes of the historic home seller, right, and connect on that level.
Yeah, there's a sense of, I'm connected to history. There's a legacy here that I'm part of. And will you continue that legacy?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, people can be very emotional, and sentimental, more so than with another type of property. Mm-hmm. So it can be challenging. Yeah, they don't want somebody that's going to come in and just do all this new renovation stuff to it. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it has its own set of challenges, but its own set of rewards.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. So it's funny because that dovetails perfectly into that next question, kind of on my list of questions is, what are the rewards? Are there any stories that just stand out from your time in real estate where you go, yeah, we made a difference there, or that was a train wreck? Any of those stories? There's
a lot of train wrecks, but I mean, I try not to focus on those ones. Like I'm the type of person that really tries to trust my intuition, mm-hmm, and my instincts about things. Like I remember the very first listing I ever got, and I would just walk around my neighborhood or drive around downtown, and I still do this all the time. And sometimes just a certain property kind of like stands out to you. I don't know what it is, but you're like, there's something about, mm-hmm, this house. And for me, it's like, I can't let it go. I start thinking about that house. And so I was walking around my neighborhood. I saw this house. It's like a cute little craftsman. And I saw they were doing some work on the outside of it. And I thought, well, you never know. Maybe they're doing some work to put it on the market, So I just go up and I knock on the door. Nobody answers. I'm like, oh, okay, I'll just put my business card, through the slot in the door. I leave, get a call in my office, and they're like, yeah, I just got your business card in my door. I want to know why you put your business card in my door. I'm like, oh, well, I'm a realtor, and I saw you're doing some work on the house, and I thought maybe you might be interested in selling. Mm-hmm. It was like, well, that's really weird because that's exactly what we're doing. We're going to sell the house. And I'm like, oh, well, could I come by and talk to you about it? And it was like, okay. And it was just like that, and I mean, and obviously not every listing you get is that simple. You have competition and things like that. But for me, the message is to, trust your instincts. And there's been a lot of times where I've had those instincts and I didn't follow through on it. And then I see the house is listed, or somebody else gets a listing or something happens, and it was like, God, I could have just made a phone call or wrote a letter or done something. Mm-hmm. So for me, I don't know if other people have those feelings, but I think in real estate, you kind of get those little hairs that stand up and you're like...
I think it's an important point because there is a certain intuition, right?
Mm-hmm.
You begin to recognize a pattern. Your onboard, artificial, it's not artificial, but your onboard intelligence, your brain is processing all kinds of data points every minute, right? You drive through a neighborhood, and whereas somebody else might just go, oh, that's interesting. Something in your brain goes, ding, 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 ding,
mm-hmm,
right? And you slip the card in, and now you're like, wow, I just got this listing. That, I would say that's a mark of expertise, right? That's somebody who understands the market on such an intuitive level because you've been in it day in and day out, and that passion. Yeah, absolutely.
I think, what you focus on expands,
mm-hmm,
and what you think about, you bring about. right? It's just like the thing, like I'm going to look for blue cars, and now all you see are blue cars. So I think if you just put your attention on that and you keep your focus on that, it will come to you. But I think one of the problems in our business is that there's so much to focus on. There's so much to think about. Yeah. There's so much minutia that you can get caught up in. And before you know it, you're not actually doing anything that's really producing results. You're just doing all this busy work, right? Instead of the basics of the actual prospecting.
Yeah. I love it because what I'm hearing is give yourself permission to get obsessive about a niche, about a segment, about something. And so I had this conversation this morning on a call, but think about any other industry, the specialists get paid the most, right? Whether you're a lawyer or a doctor or an accountant, or it doesn't matter. If you are the best at what you do in a given area, you get paid the most. And that's sort of what I'm hearing is you give yourself that permission to be committed, right? And because of that, you're picking up on things that other people aren't going to.
Yeah, I mean, I think people really need to follow their passion, right? And so it's just natural for me to find this niche and to be the expert at it, right? And to have that kind of authority, as opposed to just if I'm being interviewed and another agent's being interviewed and that agent doesn't specialize in this neighborhood or historic homes, I have a huge leg up against them, and it's pretty easy for me to show that and to prove that. But yeah, I think that people can find that niche in all kinds of other areas too. Yeah. And I mean, that's really what you got to have, something to set yourself apart from everybody else, right?
It's almost like you were reading the questions I have here, because the next question is, what differentiates you? What sets you apart? Obviously, we've talked about your knowledge of Riverside neighborhoods, those historic properties. But what are some of the other value things that when you go into a room, hey, we're going to nail it down because we do X, Y, and Z, or this is our value proposition?
Yeah.
What is that?
Well, I mean, we work really hard on our listing presentation. I mean, you have to really shine in that moment. And, you can kind of already assume that everybody has a similar type of thing that they do. They print out the CMAs and they talk about the same things. Since this is our niche, it's easy for us to build upon that and create a presentation that sets us apart and makes us unique. And so whether that's, having a great video, maybe that you show the seller, or, it's having a beautiful presentation showcasing what you've sold. You have to really bring it. Like for me, the listing presentation, there's no holding back. It's like, I'm going to just go and give it my absolute all. And what I find is that when I show how excited and passionate I am about even just being invited, to their home, it's like, okay, I understand you're interviewing other agents, but I am so excited to see the inside of this house and that you chose me to be here. Like, wow, thank you so much. When you show that enthusiasm, I mean, that speaks a lot to people, where somebody else that maybe is just a little more serious or maybe a little overly nervous and they don't show that level of excitement. They feel like that excitement is about them and their home. So, that's what I would really say to agents. Like, how do I get the listing over somebody else? You've got to bring it in your listing presentation, and you've got to really show a sincere passion and enthusiasm about being there.
It sounds silly, but the challenge is similar to a stand-up comic, right? Because a stand-up comic, they're going to do the same set in every town across America, every Indian casino there is, right?
Right.
But they've got to bring the same level of energy. They got to personalize it to that particular audience. And if they just go in and they just do the set, it's flat. But if you go in with the energy and the excitement and you're reacting to the people who are in the room and you bring it, like you say, well, then you kill it, right? Then you own it. Then you get that listing. And I love that commitment, because there's a lot of people, I can tell, because you're talking, there's a presentation. We're going to get from point A to point B, and that's going to happen. There's no winging it here, right? It sounds like there's a presentation, but you're bringing it every time, so that if I'm in the room with you, I don't feel like there's a presentation. I feel like
that's the thing too, is you have to be able to read people, right? I mean, you have to always. I mean, you hear like Ford, right? Practice of Ford techniques, and asking questions. I mean, for me, like I always do a pre-listing interview over the phone before the actual listing presentation, where you ask all the questions, what is the motivation, of you putting your house on the market? What are your plans? And what price do you think you're going to get for your home? If they tell me something crazy, I already know where they're at mentally.
Right.
So I go through all kinds of questions with them over the phone. So before I even get there, I already know what they want to hear.
I love it. And I was just going to, it's funny, I was just going to underline that. If you're listening, tune in here, right? Pre-listing presentation is you are asking them, tell me how to get this listing.
Exactly.
Right? Tell me exactly what I need to know to get this listing. And how many people just are too lazy to do that?
Right.
Right.
They just don't even think of it. They just show up, right? With no information.
Or they don't have the confidence because they're worried if I ask them these questions, I'm going to seem like I don't know what I'm doing. But that is part of what establishes you as the expert.
I mean, I would literally ask them, Chris, what's important to you about the agent that you hire to sell your home?
Yeah.
And they just tell me whatever it is. And it's different for people. People just like, it has to be somebody that I can trust. It has to be somebody that knows how to market a home like this. It has to be whatever it is. Right. So I'm like, it's just like, it's so easy. It's like, well, you've already given me the answer of what I need to show you when I go meet with you.
It's like you're meeting with your professor saying, tell me what's going to be on the test. And
right.
Like, yeah, right here. Okay, good. I'll prepare for the test, right?
Right.
But it's not that much time, but there's a confidence that you have to have, because you could also lose the listing on that pre-listing conversation as well if you don't handle it right.
That's true. I had kind of an awkward situation one time where I asked the seller what he owed, so that I could have a net sheet prepared. But somehow this was like a really offensive question. And it was like, we just started talking and you want to already know my financial details. Like, I don't think that's very appropriate for you to be asking that. And it kind of started to go sideways. Yeah. And I knew they were interviewing other agents. And so I was, I thought, well, I'm guessing that the other agents you've talked to didn't ask you this question, but I think it's important for you to really know how much are you going to net from the sale of your home? Yeah. I mean, that's really ultimately what my job is, to get you the most amount of money. So if I don't know what that number is, then I can't share it with you. So, You know what I mean? So you have to be able to overcome those objections in those moments. And sometimes you don't know what people's reactions are going to be to things, right?
And, it is interesting because we deal with the most stressful time in most people's lives, right?
Oh, yeah.
And it's a minefield, right? And as an agent, you're walking through this minefield. Like, how do you navigate that? You just mentioned one, you talk about money and all of a sudden they're like, whoa, and you didn't know that was a hot point. But what are some of the other mines that you run across in a transaction or things that you've learned to navigate?
Wow. I mean, yeah, people's emotions, right? It's like, we don't really understand. We think we're doing everything great. We think we're doing our best, right? And then they're thinking that you're doing something not well, or they're doing something that you're doing something against them, right? And you're not meeting in the same place anymore. You're like, wow, well, this person's acting like they're upset with me and I'm doing everything that I possibly can for them, what's going on here? The biggest takeaway for me is to try not to focus too much on their, emotional reactions, right? And just focus on solutions, because, you can start to get caught up in all of that, right? I mean, I think agents understand that. I mean, we really should have like a therapist that comes with our license, because, I mean, you can just get caught up in that, well, I'm working so hard for somebody and they don't appreciate me, or they're accusing me of something that isn't true. And so, but I think that if you can hold your composure and your professionalism and continue to show them the solutions that you're creating for them, things usually turn out okay.
Yeah.
And sometimes there's just those people that doesn't matter what you do, you can't make them happy, and it has nothing to do with you.
Right. Absolutely.
Right.
But I mean, you think about any other career. If you're a top surgeon, you're going to have hard conversations, but you can't get involved in well, they're mad at me, or they're upset, or they're, all this is going on. No, they're in the situation because that's the situation they're in, and I'm here to get them through that. Right?
Yeah, it's delicate because I'm a very straight shooter, because I want people to have reasonable expectations.
Yeah.
I want them to understand what, the market is capable of, what I'm capable of, what my job really is for them. And so I want to set clear boundaries, up front, and clear expectations. But you have to be able to do that in a way that doesn't off-put people at the same time.
Yeah.
So it's delicate.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And, I don't think even in the best real estate transaction, you always have those stressful moments, right? Where it's, negotiating a repair, or you're asking for some money back, or you're, there's very rarely you come in, there's nothing, right? But here, as a professional, it's like, well, this is my job. I do this every day. I know that it's stressful for you. It's not as stressful for me. It's not because I don't care. It's just because I do it. And that's why you hired the best. Right? That's how we're going to get you. And wow, what a different mindset.
I think that also touches upon really building that rapport early on. From the very first conversation you ever have with them, you have to build that rapport and that trust, so that down the line you get into that negotiation that is really stressful. They're really going to ultimately trust your advice on it. Yeah. But if you don't build that rapport and that trust from the beginning, then when you get down there to that point, then the whole thing is going to start to unravel.
Absolutely. It's one of the reasons I would say to agents, if you're doing business with family or friends, you got to come in even more professional, right? Because you need to establish that relationship. No, I'm the expert here. I'm not just your buddy we play ball with on the weekends. It's a different thing. And so when you walk into a room with me for a real estate transaction, it's a little bit different relationship, right? So you can expect a little bit different relationship. There's a higher level. Absolutely. Cool. Hey, so this is one of the questions I love to ask top producers. And it's around just the daily routines. The kind of success that you guys have isn't accidental, it's intentional, right? I know that it's the result of compounding efforts, right? Small things done over time can have massive results. So what are some of the daily routines that you have that you think compound to give you the results that you get?
Well, it's funny, Fred and I were kind of talking a little bit about this on the way here, but, we were talking about marketing yourself, your business versus prospecting, where, marketing is something that you do, to get somebody to call you, right? Whether it's a postcard or a magazine ad or, whatever it is, right? And that's great because you need to kind of get your name or your face out there in front of people, but it's not the same thing as prospecting, which is you are actively making contact with them, right? It's more of the action is on you and not on them. And I think that, if you just spent 1 hour a day prospecting, where you're calling up on those, warm leads, you're following up with past clients, just 1 hour making those phone calls a day, like as if it's like the thing where you brush your teeth every day and you don't ever skip it, like if you just do that one thing. Because I see so many new agents get bogged down with the minutia of, creating a Zillow page or, their new business card or whatever it is, right? And it's like, that's not going to give you a deal tomorrow. You have to you have to take some kind of action. And if you can take that action every single day, if you just do one thing every single day, then, you're going to have a full pipeline.
Yeah. No, I like to think of it in terms of high risk, low risk, I think a lot of newer agents, and even seasoned agents sometimes, will go to low risk activities marketing. It's low risk because no one gets to slam the door in my face. No one gets to say no. I don't have to risk looking stupid or feeling like I did a bad job. I can just do a post and it's easy, right? But you're saying just an hour a day, giving someone the opportunity to say no to you or not answer the phone or just to feel uncomfortable can have massive results. And that's something you would attribute to your success, is just being able to face that hour a day of, I'd say, high risk activity. Right?
Yeah. And I still get nervous and scared when, I'm going to make a cold call, or even, and sometimes I still will door knock, not like I'm going door to door, but maybe a specific house or something. And, I get, super anxious and really scared beforehand. But, to me, it's not about, you're never going to feel fearless, but bravery is feeling that fear and doing it anyway.
That's great. You're never going to feel fearless, but bravery is feeling the fear and doing it anyway.
Right.
And I love that statement, because you're an accomplished, high producing, team. You face it every day. And in some respects, it's very heartening. In some respects, it's terrifying, right? Because it's always there, but the difference is the ones who succeed acknowledge it and keep going.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that the more you're able to do that, then you can take on bigger fears, right? It's like, okay, I made the phone call. Let me build on that. Okay, let me make the even scarier phone call now. Okay, let me build on that. Okay, I'm going to go talk to that neighbor that's always weird, but I know they've been thinking about it. You know what I mean? Like you can build momentum by facing those fears, but it's easy to start procrastinating, right? Because nobody wants to actually face the scary thing. And so we make up all these other busy things to do, and we just keep putting it off and putting it off and putting it off. And before you know it, your comfort zone is, so tiny that you can't even ever make a phone call,
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And there's so many time sucks throughout the day that can give you the sense of production, but you really didn't do anything.
Right.
I tweaked my website, or I did a post here, or I did, I paid $10 for the ads, but I didn't give myself the opportunity to make any money today.
Right. It's like you were saying, high risk activities. Like I think of it as high payoff activities, like what is going to be the highest level, what's going to get me a signed contract? That's it. Just what is the next thing I can do that will get me a signed contract?
Right.
That's it.
I love it. Oh, wow. And that is absolutely the question that a majority of the agents in the marketplace should be asking. What's the next thing I can do that will get me a signed contract?
Exactly.
Because if the thing I'm doing right now isn't going to do that, I don't have anything in the pipeline, or I don't have as many as I want in the pipeline, then I need to focus on those things. It's what is the one thing such that by doing it, everything else becomes easier or unnecessary, right? It's a Keller Williams. But, I mean, like that's the, what is my one thing, right? And for you, what can get me the next signed contract? Absolutely. Absolutely. So we know that we're in a really compacted market right now. It's been an interesting season in real estate. So what would you say are the challenges right now in the industry?
Well, I mean, I think that since the market's gone up so much, so have agents coming into it, right? I mean, that competition is, I feel like everybody knows somebody that's an agent. I know people that they're working with 5 different agents at the same time, and so I think that for an agent, I mean, that's one of the biggest competitions, right? Because we don't have a lot of inventory. So everybody's fighting over, a really small piece of the pie.
Right.
So, that really is the biggest challenge right now. We're all fighting over the same small pieces of pie. So what is going to make you different? It just kind of goes back to that. Yeah.
Well, I think it goes back to what you said about prospecting too, right? If we know that there's a limited number and some people are just going to send out sort of, paper airplanes into the wind, hope and wish for the best. If I'm actively connecting, I'm going to overcome because I'm actually having those conversations, right? That's going to be a huge difference.
Right. Exactly. I mean, I would tell a new agent, stop filling this, form out and get on your phone and call 10 people and have a conversation with them. I mean, you've got 10 contacts in your phone, get on the phone and start talking to them. What are their real estate goals? And, just build that rapport with them. And, do they know anybody in the market? Do they have a friend or a neighbor or a family member that they know needs help, and you just keep on going down that line, and you're gonna get something out of it.
Yeah. Well, we are coming just crossing the 30-minute mark, and I told you guys we try to keep it here. So just one last question. What's next? I mean, where are you going from here? What is the next thing on the horizon for the team? Your personal goals, your business goals? What are we looking forward to?
Well, I love having these kind of conversations and sharing, our years of experience and expertise with people. So, I think we want to build a bigger team, and really be able to transfer, our wealth of knowledge into new agents that really kind of need that mentorship.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, I love that. Because there are some who would just gather the knowledge, gather all that, and then sit on it like they're a hoard of gold, like some kind of dragon. And you're saying, no, we've gotten to a point where we're ready to build and pour into other people. And I love that you said to build a team, and it wasn't, so we can benefit from the team, but it was so we can mentor, so we can bring people up. And what a fantastic mindset. So really look forward to seeing that in the future. Well,
thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for being here with us today. And I hope that if you're listening to the podcast, that there's something, there are some great takeaways, there's conversations around prospecting, around daily habits, about mindset, about finding your niche, all so many good things. And so thank you so much. And thanks for listening. Hope you guys catch us next time.